Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Monday. We have kind of a self-challenge today. I'm challenging myself, and we're going to restore this fire axe that I told you about, but we're going to do it using only one power tool. It's going to be quite a challenge, so let's get right to it. Okay, today's project. We're going to be trying this True Temper, this breaching axe or fire axe, and this one's in rough shape, as you can see here. Let's take a look at it. Look at that. You can see here it says True Temper, and it's Kelly Works, it looks like. And you can see over here, you know, these weren't made for chopping, obviously. They were made for like breaching, breaking down doors. The fire department used to use them. And you know, it's in good shape. It's just it's got some severe rust on it. Over here you can see the handle. We got that paint as well. This is a thick paint. You can see how thick that paint is. See that? The thickness of that paint on there. So we're going to try and get that off. Some reflector tape here, but we want to reuse this handle. And if you look at the wedge, let me get a good shot here. If you look at this wedge, can you see that? It looks like they used a steel. That's metal, that piece there. So we're going to try and pry that out, get this started. I'm going to try and dunk this into some vinegar just because it's a mess, you know. And let's get started. Now, like I said, you can see that looks like a metal wedge that they used in there. Again, these things were meant to be welded on. So I'm taking a screwdriver here, and I'm going to try and pry this wedge out of there using a screwdriver. Not a good screwdriver. It's always good to have some beat up screwdrivers for stuff like this, you know. But I'm going to try and pry this out of there, this wedge. Here we go. You see it's moving a little bit, but you got to get just under the corner so that it grips the wedge. And then when you get it up a little bit like we have there, maybe I can get a vice grip on it and pry that out. But just try and wedge it out a little bit, and you don't want to snap your screwdriver. But like I said, these you got to use an old screwdriver, something that's beat up or something like this, and then we'll try and pull that out. Okay, here was the steel wedge we got out. I told you these, I don't know why they used the steel wedge, but they did on these. And now we got it to bang down about ½ an inch, but you don't want to start hitting the top of this with a hammer. For some reason, these things get all buggered up. So what I did was I cut out a little teardrop out of some wood here. I'm going to put that there. That's to protect the top of the handle. Then I made this using a bolt, just a standard. I would love to put it in the dake, but it's too long, the handle. It won't fit. I just put a bolt here like this with a nut and a piece of wood, and I'm going to put this like this and wrap some twine around it and see if we can't use the threads to get it out. Let's try. Okay, as crazy as this Rube Goldberg looks, think about what we're doing here. I have the twine here holding this so that when the bolt, I have the an adjustable holding the nut. I'm going to turn over here. I'm going to turn the bolt, and this is going to press out and hopefully push this out. Do you think it's going to work? Because this is definitely some crazy looking stuff, right? Before we go any further, I'm just going to put a drop of oil on here. Anytime you use threads for pressure, it's always good to put a drop of oil on the threads. Okay, honestly, who else is impressed that worked? Okay, so remember this. That's a good little trick, isn't it? All you need is a bolt, a nut, a washer, a piece of wood, and some twine. Okay, now I'm going to dump this in some vinegar. Here we got the sticker off, and you could see that was the original. That's what the handle looked like originally, and how nice is that? And here's years of dirt and wear. And this isn't showing up, but you can see the original fluorescent orange. I know it looks a little reddish on film, but this is fluorescent orange here. And then over here, we're going to drill a hole at the bottom of this split. Again, this handle's fine, good shape. We're going to drill a hole, just a small one, using this drill bit here. And so that will stop any splitting when I put the new wedge in. Here we go. You see that hole right there at the bottom of the cut? Will stop any splitting. It's always a good idea to do. Now I know you see me doing this a lot of times in time lapse and you wonder how long does it take. I'm going to show you. I'm just going to do this little section here. Again, single edge razor blade. Okay, and now the grain, the always way, you'll see if you go this way, it might grip a couple of the fibers. So you'll know when you're doing it the right way. But here, we're just letting the blade lay against the wood, and you could see what a nice job it does and how quickly you could do this area here. Now, we're just doing this area, like I said, real time, and there we go. Now, you see what we did here? And it's nice and smooth to the touch, and you just got to go over it with a little sandpaper. You see the difference there. This is the way to go. Single edge razor blade, not for the faint at heart. Don't worry about cutting yourself. Just let it drag across the wood, and it'll take the varnish right off. Now, for this thick orange paint down here, I had all intentions of taping this off and hitting this with some paint remover. But you know what? Again, the single edge blade, look at this. How nice is that, huh? Who needs paint thinner or remover? Here we go. I maybe got 20-25 minutes into this handle. And look how nice this is, huh? There's no reason to get a new handle for this. I mean, it's beautiful. Old growth hickory. Now we're done with the handle. Now we'll start. We only had it in the vinegar for a couple hours just to get that powdery rust off because I don't want to be breathing it. But now what we're going to do, so we're going to use a 40 grit, kind of a 140 grit. And we're going to take off some of, now I can already see there's some damage here from some side hitting, but we're going to get through there. We're just going to hit it real quick. I have a piece of scrap wood through the eye of the axe head just to hold it on here so that I can use the grinder. Let's get to it. Okay, here's our first stage evaluation. Now, again, we didn't go on a wire brush with this because we knew we were going to have to go through a few stages with this. Now, look over here. Here's, again, where you evaluate your project and you say, you know, is it worth it? Do I do it? Now, you could still get these axes new. So, sometimes you have to say, you know, look at it. Now, for example, you see these are some serious deep pitting here, right? Now, I could take it down. This is with the 40 grit. But it would take hours, literally hours, to get through, to get this down to a polishable surface, you know? So, I'm just not ready to put that kind of time into this particular axe because this is still a good user axe. There's nothing wrong with it. Still plenty of metal, strong and solid, but whether or not we want to make it a presentation axe, not for this one, because like I said, it's just too, if you're going to do a presentation axe, you're better off starting off with something that is in better shape. You could see there. So what we're going to do is we're going to rest a little bit, see what we want to do, and go back with it and try and get it as good as we can get it for this type of project. Okay, I went upstairs. I had dinner. I reviewed the footage. I started putting it together, and I saw myself moaning about those pits and whatnot, and I apologize. That's not what we do in this channel. We always try and put in a little extra effort. So, and I hate pits, and you know that. And I know you hate pits too. So, came down here and we ground them out. And let's get back to the axe head. Now, this is what's disheartening. I know, you see this? I wanted to do is doing the bottom of the handle in a nice candy red, it was coming out. But then look, all of a sudden I started getting bubbles and I don't know what the humidity today, and it's very disheartening. You start to do a project. This side came out somewhat okay, that candy, and it would have been so nice, but see, I got to strip all this off now and start again. And that's what I hate the most. I can't stand painting. Now you know my favorite part. Remember what this axe looked like before we started. And we are calling this project done. Look how nice this came out. Huh? I told you, these old handles, there's nothing wrong with them. There's no reason to get rid of them. They really come out nice, don't they? And I did this up with a little Regal Red, redid it. You can still see the grain through the paint. Let me show you close up here. First, let's talk about the head. I didn't go for a full mirror polish, but you have to admit that's pretty darn close, isn't it? I mean, that is very close to a mirror polish for this type of axe. Again, we're able to keep everything, got rid of every single pit is gone from here, which meant a couple hours of grinding, but every single pit on both sides. Did the edge over here nicely. The back, everything looks really nice in the back, and I'm really proud of how this handle came out, how hung. I'll show you that. Now look at how nice and tight this handle came out. Again, you remember what the old one looked like? I was able to cut off about a half an inch because I drove it down a little further, and I put a nice poplar wedge in, a custom-made poplar wedge that goes all the way down. And then I didn't even need this steel wedge, but because the span was so long, I just thought the steel broke it up a little bit visually, made it look better. And so I'm really happy. But again, not a gap, super strong. This is really tight. Okay, let's talk about the handle finish. First of all, you know, I did the, I love that gun stock. You know, I did it in gun stock, and then 2 coats of marine spar varnish in a satin, and it looks real nice. And then in the back here, I did this in a Rust-Oleum red, and that was a brush on, but I did this, you can still see the grain of the wood through here. You see that? So that was baked on, and I did the varnish after the red, so there's no transition line here. And I think that just looks so classic. You know, it's a classic look with that Regal Red and that gun stock. Always love that. And the reason, obviously, I didn't go, again, linseed oil, I know a lot of guys like it. Looks terrible after a while. Linseed oil is great for, like I said, outdoor tools that you use all the time. This is a breaching axe, and you would never, you know, use this on a daily basis, and you wouldn't use it for too long either. The head of this axe, it weighs 6 1/4 pounds. Now, this axe was made for breaching. It's a breaching axe for firefighters. It was made to go through roofs and doors and things like that. It wasn't made to swing like a forestry axe where you'd be in the woods all day. You know, you would use this for, you know, an hour or so where you're at the fire, and that was it. So, you know, like I said, the finish on here, this will protect the wood much better than a linseed oil, which, you know, you have to apply often and keep it up. But this is something you apply once, and it seals the wood, and it'll. But again, it's not as easy as on the hands as linseed oil, so that's why a lot of forestry people like the linseed oil for outdoor. But I just think it looks terrific. For this type of axe. Now, what made this restoration such a challenge was I only used this one power tool to do this entire restoration, and that's the Harbor Freight 4.5-inch angle grinder. And what this series that I used was I used the grinding disc first. That's this one here, and you can see it's a grinding wheel. That took out all the pits and everything. Secondly, I went with the 40 grit. This would be coarse, and you can see it was a 40 grit wheel. You can use any one. This one is a 120. That got out the scratches from here. And then I went with the, this was just a fiber wheel that you can get, and I'll have the links in the description for these. And this is the felt pad. Now, this is the first time I used the felt pad. It was good. I don't know if it was, you know, terrific. I mean, it worked. It worked, but I think I could have got the same results with just hand rubbing with compound or something. But, you know, it does save some elbow grease. So that's all I used to do this restoration. So in closing, there we have a one-tool restoration, only using one power tool, which I thought was pretty interesting. A lot of fun. Nice little challenge. It lets you know that it doesn't take a lot of money to get into this hobby. You know, that whole tool with all the accessories run you $50 maybe. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a nice day now. Take care. Bye-bye.